Welcome everyone to Historic Hospitality. Presenting to you Love's Journey, Edwardian romance to the Passport Bros. Today, we encounter a controversial situation with the rise of the passport bro phenomenon. Hold on to your hats, people. This one's an on-fire and divisive topic in 2024. But I want to break it down. These guys, their validity of argument against the realities of modern life and love, a minefield of underachievement, delusional expectations, and inflated egos. Sorry girls, but it is a fact. Ultimately, history can teach us many things about the current situation, so here we go. So, this to explore and identify causation parallel to the female's perspective. Why are guys leaving to find love? This isn't just the US, it's England as well, Scotland, Wales. There are people doing this all over the place. The question is, why is it becoming such a mainstream thing? Well, welcome to one of my social commentaries that relates to historical situations programmes. And yes, there is a connection, surprisingly, in this recent chain of events to the days of old. So, this trend involves men, often from Western countries seeking romantic partners abroad. They're driven by a desire for what they perceive to be more traditional values or different cultural attitudes towards relationships. I would say it's a pretty fair statement in 2024. This modern movement can be compared to Edwardian dating in so many ways, where there were strict social codes and expectations. There was a very defined courtship. In both eras, individuals sought connections that aligned with their personal objectives and societal norms. In the context of cross-race dating, this phenomenon highlights the evolving dynamics of many modern relationships. It reflects on how men may feel that they're finding a partner abroad offers a contrast to what they see as shifting values among modern women in our own countries. It reflects how many men feel that finding partners abroad offers a contrast to what they see as a very shifting narrative and values among modern women at home. These men believe that they can find more compatibility and fulfillment by looking beyond the borders. Ultimately, examining these trends helps us to understand the complexities and motivations behind contemporary dating choices. In turn, it invites us to consider how cultural differences and societal expectations shape our romantic pursuits, urging us to approach these conversations with empathy and openness. The passport bros phenomenon involves men travelling abroad to find relationships or marriage, which some argue reflects historical patterns of seeking partners overseas. This is not a new thing. In the Edwardian era, similar behaviours were observed, though under different contexts. In the early 20th century, especially during the Edwardian period, and a little bit before when the Victorians started to travel more, between 1901 and 1910, a lot of the wealthy men often travelled abroad, sometimes marrying women from other countries. This could be for various reasons. Many reasons include economic advantages, social status, or simply the allure of exotic cultures and people. For example, British men often married American heiresses, which helped replenish their families' fortunes. It works both ways, ladies. It always has, it always will. So, all right, let's start with the general trends during the Edwardian era. Wealthy men often travelled abroad for various reasons, including business, leisure, or they did go to find marital partners. Marrying foreign women, particularly American heiresses, was common amongst British aristocracy to bolster their family's finances. These marriages were often strategic, aimed at preserving social status and wealth. Now it's time for me to butcher a few names. One notable trend was the dollar princesses phenomenon. American heiresses like Consuelo Vanderbilt married into British nobility. These marriages helped the British aristocrats maintain their estates and provided American families with a noble title. It gave them connections. There are some notable and specific cases. These would include the lady just mentioned. She married Charles Spencer Churchill, the 9th Duke of Marlborough, in 1895. The marriage was initially arranged for financial and social reasons, but later, as you can imagine, it ended in divorce. There was also Mary Leiter, an American heiress who married George Curzon. He was the first Marquis of Curzon of Kendleston. This was in 1895, and their union helped Curzon's political career, and Mary became a very prominent figure in British society. These examples illustrate how cross-cultural marriages were used to address economic and social needs for both parties, much like the phenomenon of passport bros in the modern day and age. Where men will seek the relationships abroad, they're driven by culture, social or economic factors. But let's hop back in time just a few short years. The Victorians were also fascinated by the intersections of different races, including interracial relationships and families. These racial crossings shape their views of the past, the future, and the whole empire. Humans are creatures of partnership. We need each other to survive, and this is nothing new. Many years back, people valued this and respected it. Britain didn't have laws criminalising interracial marriage. These couples still face discrimination and isolation. Just a few notable examples of some interracial couples in Victorian and progressive Britain. Starting with the counterfeiter James Flower and his wife, white tourists in the 18th century, commented on the couple describing the wife as a lusty black woman. Dolly Parnell, she went with Princess Nasir Ali Khan in 1909. The actress married Prince Nasir Ali Khan, the brother of the Muslim Nawab of Rampur, India, in London. Mohammed Hassan and Katie Link in 1925, so a little bit later, the wedding party of the Somalian man and mixed Welsh race woman took place in Butte Town. For the American heiresses, marrying into British nobility had advantages. These were notable. It gave them some social elevation. Marrying into the European aristocracy provided American women with prestigious titles and entry into that very prestigious high society. The social elevation often came with opportunities for influence and more prominent roles within the public sphere. There was a cultural exchange. These marriages were allowed when women to experience new cultures and lifestyles, often bringing a sense of adventure and personal growth. Financial security also came from this. So despite often marrying for social status, these women gained financial security, especially with their families that were already wealthy. They provided substantial dowries. Comparing this to modern passport bros as a phenomenon, many men today seek relationships abroad for somewhat parallel reasons. One, I would say, is traditional values. Many men believe they find more traditional values and attitudes towards family and relationships in women from other cultures and countries, which they feel is lacking in the West. Cultural appreciation is another point. Just as the Edwardian women experience many new cultures, modern men appreciate and are intrigued by different cultures and perspectives, different ways of life. There is also one thing that's good to remember. It is a mutual benefit. Like any relationship, it's meant to be a mutual beneficial thing. They're similar to the mutual beliefs seen in Edwardian marriages. These modern relationships can be mutually beneficial. Women may gain stability, financial support, and the opportunity to move to countries with better living conditions. It is a fact, but it's not the basis of why these guys go. Positive perception. So while the passport bros are sometimes criticised, many argue that these relationships are based on mutual respect, shared values, rather than exploitative dynamics. I agree with this one. In both eras, the key similarities, a search for mutually beneficial relationships. They're the blending of cultures, the pursuit of values perceived to be missing in their home environments. I can relate to this. I've stayed single now for nearly 8 years. So these aspects underscore that seeking relationships abroad isn't inherently negative. It can be about finding compatible partners who share values and goals. Certainly, it's important to address the misconceptions and criticisms that often arise around passport bros and the phenomenon. Many Western women express negative viewpoints online, perceiving these men as seeking relationships in less developed countries out of a desire to exploit economic disparities. However, this perspective overlooks several major key points. Firstly, I'd like to say countries like the Philippines and Brazil and many others are not third world countries in the way this term is often vastly misused. These countries have vibrant cultures, very growing economies and many educated individuals. For instance, many Filipinos speak multiple languages, several, including English, which is widely taught and used in business and education. It's taught as a second language. How many of our Western people, including me, can speak more than one language, English? Not many. Brazil, with its rich cultural heritage, also boasts a significant portion of the population that is very well and highly educated. They're multilingual as well. They all speak more than we do. Secondly, the women in these countries are not desperate or uneducated. I've worked with many people from the Philippines, Hong Kong. English is probably better than mine half the time. They often have strong family values and a deep sense of cultural traditions that resonate with the values sought after by many passport bros. These women are looking for genuine relationships and partnerships, not challenges and arguments, much like their Western counterparts up and down these days. I suppose lastly, the decision to seek relationships abroad is not solely driven by economic factors. Many men are attracted to cultural values, warmth, tradition and different attitudes towards family that are more prevalent in those countries. This mutual search for compatible values and shared goals forms the foundation of these relationships, which can be more respectful and beneficial for both parties. So in summary, the criticism from some Western voices overlooks the complexities and the positive aspects of these cross-cultural relationships. By understanding and respecting diverse backgrounds and values of individuals in these countries, we can appreciate that these relationships are built on more than just economic considerations. They reflect a far deeper search for compatibility, shared values, and also, above all, mutual respect. Certainly, when Western women voice negative opinions online about the passport bros, it can be problematic for several reasons, both for the men involved and for the women in the countries they seek relationships in. I'd like to say that firstly, such criticisms often stem from stereotypes and misconceptions. Describing countries like the Philippines or Brazil as third world and assuming that the women are undereducated, desperate or inaccurate, it's just inaccurate and derogatory. It makes no sense. I assume that it's coming from people that have never been and don't look online. They just assume that. So these countries have diverse populations with many educated, capable and economically stable individuals. Not everyone is, but that's the same in the US and the UK. When Western women make these generalisations, they are inadvertently undermining the dignity and achievements of people in these countries. Secondly, such negative viewpoints can perpetuate harmful stereotypes, labelling women from these countries as being, in relationships out of desperation or a lack of options. diminishes their agency and the genuine connections they might form. It's just disrespectful. It diminishes their ability to make informed choices about their own lives and relationships. Thirdly, I'd like to go on to this one if I don't get in trouble. These criticisms, I suppose they can come off as culturally insensitive. Each culture has its own values, has its own norms around the family and relationship sphere. By criticising men for seeking partners who might have different cultural perspectives, Western women may inadvertently suggest that Western norms are superior, which is not only ethnocentric, but it's dismissive of the it's mad, isn't it? Of the diversity. There's so many global cultures, so you just have to be careful. Be very careful. Just for a little bit of fun, some examples of old passports. Moreover, these negative opinions can create hostile online environments. I say can, it definitely has been. They can fuel division, resentment, rather than fostering understanding and respect. I've said it before, respect. We all need to respect each other more. This type of discourse can make it more difficult for people to have open, respectful conversations about their choices and experiences throughout their lives. Finally, such criticism can affect the women in these countries considerably negatively. They may feel stigmatised and unfairly judged by assumptions about their motives and circumstances. We wouldn't like that in Western society, would we? It's a bit unfair. I suppose this can perpetuate feelings of being undervalued or misunderstood on a global stage. Voicing negative opinions about passport bros without understanding the full context can be derogatory and disrespectful. So going back, certainly in the Edwardian period, the suffragettes, led by the figures like Emmeline Pankhurst, she fought tirelessly for women's rights and equality. Their efforts laid the groundwork for many of the freedoms and opportunities women enjoy today. However, the negative online discourse surrounding the passport bros phenomenon can undermine these achievements. By promoting stereotypes and demeaning women from other countries, such as criticism contradicts the principles and equalities and the respect aspects the suffragettes championed. It risks fostering division and prejudice instead of promoting understanding and solidarity among women globally. You've got to support your kind. That's how it works. Guys for guys, go support each other. Ultimately, I suppose, perpetuating the negative views about cross-cultural relationships can damage the progress made in women's rights by reinforcing outdated and ethnocentric attitudes. It's essential to honour the legacy of the suffragettes by advocating for respect, equality and cultural sensitivity in all discussions about relationships and women's choices. Absolutely, the idea of men seeking partners abroad is seen as a modern phenomenon driven by desperation. It's a misconception. Historically, men have found partners in other countries for a multitude of reasons, reflecting broader social and cultural dynamics. I did speak and do a documentary on my channel about Emmeline Pankhurst. There'll be more features from the suffragettes, so go take a look at my channel if you're interested in a more detailed history about her. It was filmed in her house. So as we go back to the Edwardian period, travel was becoming far more accessible, as we said before. The men travelled abroad for even military service. Most went for leisure and tours until they became real men, and it was a case of forming cultural relationships just quite naturally. This was not seen as unusual or desperate, but rather a consequence of increased mobility and global interaction. Military personnel and expatriate workers have long met and married partners while stationed or working overseas. These relationships were formed and based on mutual attraction and shared experiences, not desperation. The phenomenon of seeking like-minded partners abroad reflects the desire for shared values and cultural appreciation. It's not a new or negative trend. In summary, the practice of forming cross-cultural relationships is not a modern thing. It has historical roots, especially during times of increased travel and global interactions, very much like the Edwardian period. Men today, like in the past, are often drawn to partners who share their values and perspectives, making these relationships a natural and long-standing aspect of human connection. The negative attitudes expressed by some Western women towards foreign women involved in the cross-cultural relationships, often referred to as the passport bros, can perpetuate harmful stereotypes and risk veering into racism. It is a fact, ladies. Criticising these relationships as exploitative or desperate undermines the agency and autonomy of both men and women involved. Additionally, making derogatory comments about the women from other countries can contribute to xenophobia and racial prejudice. We're trying to make the world a more equitable and equal place. These kind of things don't really help it. It's essential to approach the discussions about cross-cultural relationships with sensitivity, understanding, and a commitment to combating discrimination in all its forms. There is nothing inherently wrong with men seeking love in another country, especially if they feel that the values and priorities of Western women don't align with their own. We are all entitled to our personal preferences. It's no different. In some cases, Western women may prioritise their careers and personal pursuits over family life, which has been proven more so over the last 15 to 20 years. It may not resonate with everyone. Seeking a partner abroad who shares traditional family-orientated values can be a legitimate choice for individuals who prioritise those aspects of life. So I guess it's important to recognise that everyone has different priorities and preferences when it comes to relationships, and finding a compatible partner is ultimately about mutual respect, understanding and shared values, regardless of where they're from. Discussing modern feminism's impact on the family unit and individuals, it's a complex situation, I suppose, and quite nuanced. While feminism in its original forms brought about significant advancements in gender and equality with women's rights, some may now argue that certain aspects of modern feminism have had unintended consequences for the family dynamic and personal relationships. One perspective is that the emphasis on individual autonomy and independence within the feminist movement has led to a shift away from family structures. Advocating for women's right to pursue education, careers and personal fulfilment has sometimes been interpreted as devaluing traditional family roles and prioritising individual success over familial bonds. Additionally, the push for gender equality in all aspects of life, including relationships and parenting, has challenged traditional gender roles and also the expectations. So while this has created opportunities for greater flexibility and freedom in personal choices, which is great, it has also created tensions and uncertainties for some individuals navigating evolving gender dynamics within their own families. As for the idea that some feminists may feel unhappy or lonely towards their older end of life, it is important to recognise that happiness and fulfilment are subjective. They're influenced by various factors beyond one's feminist beliefs. Some individuals may indeed feel a sense of fulfilment and contentment in their later years, whether they are single or in a relationship, or while others may experience challenges or regrets regardless of their feminist beliefs. While modern feminism has undoubtedly reshaped societal norms and expectations around family and the personal relationships involved with, its impact on individuals' happiness and well-being is multifaceted and varies from person to person. It's essential to engage in thoughtful and respectful dialogue about these complex issues, acknowledging both progress made and the challenges that remain in achieving gender equality and personal fulfilment for all individuals. One that I said many years ago, probably about 15 years ago, I said the internet will be the death of relationships, Tinder and things will destroy it. I wasn't wrong. The rise of the internet and online dating has indeed provided people with unprecedented access to a vast array of potential partners, creating a paradox of choice. With so many options available, individuals may struggle to feel satisfied with their choices, constantly wondering if there's someone better suited for them. Also something I said 15, 20 years ago, and it was the case through my dating life. These choices, this abundance of choice, can lead to sort of inflated egos and a sense of entitlement, as individuals may start to believe they deserve the absolute best in a partner. As a result, some people may find it challenging to commit to a long-term relationship, always questioning, could they find someone more compatible or, probably more likely, more attractive? This mentality can undermine the stability and longevity of relationships. The individuals may be more inclined to end the relationship at the first sign of dissatisfaction. Yes, and that is something else that's happened to me several times. Rather than them, working through the challenges and conflicts till death do us part. It kind of has vanished these days. I suppose the perception of endless choice can create unrealistic expectations and standards for the potential partners, making it difficult for individuals to appreciate and value qualities of the person they're actually with. This can ultimately hinder the development of deep and meaningful connections based on mutual respect, understanding and compatibility. While the internet and online dating can offer opportunities to meet new people, and it is the only option for some, I've long given up on it, waste of life, the abundance of choice can have a negative implication for the individual's satisfaction, the long-term prosperity of relationships. So I suppose it's important for individuals to approach dating and relationships with mindfulness, focusing on meaningful connections rather than endless options to cultivate fulfilling and lasting partnerships. The influence of internet and online dating has permeated to all age groups. It's a little bit worrying at this point when I do my research. It's including individuals in their 40s, 50s and 60s, sometimes later, shaping their perceptions and behaviours within their own relationships. In some cases, individuals who are otherwise happy and fulfilled in their relationships may be compelled to seek something more, driven by a sense of restlessness or the illusion of greener pastures offered by the internet's abundance of options. The danger lies in the ease in which individuals can now explore alternative possibilities online, fostering a mentality of the grass is always greener and making it tempting to trade a stable, loving relationship for the allure of novelty and excitement. The anonymity and accessibility of online platforms can fuel unrealistic fantasies and expectations. This leads individuals to believe that they are missing out on something better elsewhere. And I've seen this, and I'm seeing it all over the place now. So it's not just research, it's personal perspectives and all sorts. The phenomenon, I suppose, can be particularly problematic for the older individuals who may be experiencing a midlife crisis or questioning their life choices. The idea of finding oneself becomes intertwined with the pursuit of new romantic connections. Why? That one confuses me. It leads to disillusion and otherwise happy partnerships dissolving. The prevalence of social media and dating apps can facilitate emotional infidelity, as individuals may seek validation and attention from others outside of their primary relationship. The constant exposure to idealised images and curated profiles can create a sense of dissatisfaction with one's current partner, even if the relationship is otherwise fulfilling and safe. As a result, some individuals may choose to leave a perfectly happy relationship in search of something they perceive or believe as more fulfilling or exciting, only to find themselves disillusioned and alone in the pursuit of an elusive ideal. Meanwhile, their partners are left to grapple with the emotional fallout and the uncertainty of being left behind, which is a very valid thing in this day and age. The influence of the internet and online dating has introduced new complexities and challenges to relationships, including the temptation to trade stability and contentment for the promise of something better. A good relationship is a boring relationship. Steadiness and no arguments is what a relationship should be. The norm is normal life. Don't constantly seek, excitement that shouldn't be there. I suppose it's essential to approach the relationships with mindfulness, recognizing the value of what you have. The potential consequences of seeking fulfillment outside of the current partnership is inherently bad, very dangerous. During the Edwardian period, travel became more accessible, as we know. It just led to more travel and more cultures being integrated. While specific historical records may be limited, anecdotes and personal accounts from the time period can shed a light on the experiences of Edwardian travellers and their interactions with people from other parts of the world. By exploring these lesser known aspects of Edwardian travel and social dynamics, we can provide a more comprehensive understanding to the historical roots of cross-cultural relationships and their significance in modern times. Scholars, artists, intellectuals from different countries often mingled in academic circles, leading to personal connections and collaborations. These examples highlight the diverse array of cross-cultural relationships that existed during the Edwardian period, beyond the well-documented Anglo-American marriages. So in closing, it's essential to recognise that the phenomenon of men seeking love abroad is not new, nor is it inherently negative. Just as women have historically sought partners beyond their own borders, men today are drawn to cross-cultural relationships for the multitude of reasons. It reflects on personal preferences, values and aspirations. By looking back to the Edwardian period and beyond, we can see that these cross-cultural connections have a long part in human interaction. They shape the dynamics of travel, exploration and cultural exchange. It's crucial now not to judge or stigmatise individuals who pursue relationships abroad, as their choices are often rooted in genuine desires for connection and compatibility. It's simple. Rather than letting emotion cloud our judgment, we should strive to respect each other's decisions and perspectives, recognising the diversity of human experiences and relationships. Ultimately, by embracing empathy, understanding and mutual respect, we can foster a more inclusive and compassionate society where individuals are free to pursue love and happiness wherever they may find it. In doing so, we honour the rich tapestry of human relationships and celebrate the universal desire for connection and companionship across the borders and all cultures. So this was a little bit different in a documentary style because it's a current subject I kind of have an opinion on. So I thought I'd delve into the history of it a little bit more. Thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe. If you'd like to visit my Patreon, there is a link in the description. I wish you the best, male and female. See you soon. Good night.